tutorial for Nocode HQ, and today we will build a currency exchange calculator app using Glide and a Google Sheet as well as Parabola to integrate or basically import data from an external API. So what you will need a Google account, a Glide account, a Parabola account, and we will use the foreign exchange rates API by the European Central Bank. You can get that under exchangeratesAPI.io, and you can use that for free as well. And you can create accounts for all of these services for free. So let me just quickly summarize what we're going to build. So basically, we're going to build a currency converter for the euro. So we want to get the conversion between euro to US dollar, euro to British pound, euro to Swiss franc, and so on. And we will get this data from this API, which will have the latest data, I believe, or should have the latest data. And we will fetch that data using Parabola, okay? Make some modifications to it, insert it into our Google Sheet, which will then act as our database for Glide, where we can build our currency calculator. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to go to Parabola, and after you logged in, you want to create a new flow. Just click on Add, and you will be brought into the flow builder. And the first thing we want to do, we want to create an API import. So just choose API import, drag that onto the screen, okay? I'm now going to go back to the foreign exchange rate API, and I'm just going to copy this structure. That's the only we need, the latest exchange rates for the euro. Let's just copy that endpoint, and as you can see, it's a GET request. So let's go back. Let's select API import. We want to have a GET request. Let's just enter the API endpoint here. We don't need any authentication, and let's show the updated results. Okay, so as you can see, we have our rates here to the base euro at this date, which looks quite nice. And the only thing is now we want basically the rates to be displayed separately, because currently they are in a JSON format. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add a JSON flattener. So just let's search for JSON flattener. Let's drag that here. Connect the first step to the JSON flattener. Let's select the JSON flattener. We want to flatten the rates column. Okay. Let's show updated results. Okay, and we want to expand the list into new rows. Oh, they're here already. Okay, great. We don't need to do that. So as you can see, we have our rates JSON here. Now we have the expanded results or the flattened results. We have our rates.cat, rates.hkd, ISK, and all the currencies that are available. Always in the format rates.the_currency. And at the end, we still have our base, which is euro, and the date. So that's great. That's all we need to do. So let me close that actually. Let's actually show the update results. And let's close that. Okay. What I'm going to do next, I want to remove some columns actually. So I'm going to search for column filter. Let me just select that. Connect the JSON flattener to the column filter. Let's double click here. And we want to let's say, for example, we want to build a simple currency conversion app, and we don't want to include all the currencies because that's just going to make it a lot harder. So let's say we only want to include the British pound conversion, US dollar, let's say as well the New Zealand dollar, and the Swiss franc. That's all let's just say that's all, and we can use the ruble as well. So let's remove all the columns, which is rates, or the Canadian dollar. We can stay. This one, this one, this one, this one, this one. This is Australian dollar. We can leave that. Let's just remove most of them to keep it simple. So I'm just gonna keep. Yeah, that's it. So I'm just gonna keep the Canadian dollar, Australian dollar, Swiss franc, US dollar, and the British pound. Let's just show the updated results. As you can see, we now have our cleaned out data. So we have our rates.cat, rates.aud, and so on. So these are basically the exchange rates, which just means 1 euro is 0.8 British pounds, or 1 euro is 1.09 US dollars, and so on. So that's the calculations, the numbers, basically the formula that we're going to use within our Glide application. And that's basically it, to be honest. What we can do now, we can just close that, and after all these steps are run through, we can export that data to our Google Sheet. And what I did already, I created a Google Sheet. I just called that exchange rate app. You can call whatever you like. And we're just going to leave it blank because parabola is going to take care of inserting data. So let me just go back to parabola and let's search for Sheets export. Let's drag that here. Connect the column filter to the Google Sheets export. Okay, what you want to do, you want to connect your Google account. And let me just check. Let's click authorize. You have to connect your Google. Okay, after connecting your Google account, you can select the file you want to use for the export. In our case, it's the exchange rate app. So let me just select that. And what we want to do in this case, we want to override the whole sheet. Okay, we could append to sheet, but that would be something that we could use if we want to create some historical data for our app. But we actually just want to override the whole sheet so that basically the newest, latest currency exchanges or the data for the currency exchange, the exchange rate, sorry, is displayed every time. So let's just override the whole sheet. Let's show updated results, and parabola will just basically, let's select the sheet as well. We have sheet 1. Let's click again the button. Okay, parabola will just basically override the whole data we have this here to our sheet, and yeah, that's basically it. So we can close that now, and we're done with parabola actually. Let's just publish that and see if everything works. So let's click publish, and let's click on run now. We want this flow to run, so let's click run now. It says running. Okay, and it says succeeded, so let's go back to our Google Sheet. Okay, awesome. As you can see, that worked fine. We have our basically column headers appended as well, the rates.cat, rates.Australian dollar, and so on, the date as well. Our base in euro, we wouldn't need that actually because we know it's the base is euro, but why not? And we have our British pound rate, the US dollar rate, Swiss franc, and so on. And it seems like these are the newest rates. Let's just check maybe. $1.10. Yeah, I think that's even more accurate than the Google result here. So yeah, it looks quite accurate. And yeah, that's basically what you can do now. You can go back to parabola and you can say, okay, I want to schedule this whole thing. So let's add a rule, and you can say, okay, the currency rates they are changed quite often, or they're modified quite often. So I actually want to run this every hour, or every 30 minutes, or even every 10 minutes. So what this will then do, parabola will automatically, without you touching it, run this flow how often as you want, and just replace the data within your Google Sheet with the newest exchange rate data. And yeah, that's basically it. You can save the rule, publish it, and parabola will do its thing. So we're all set regarding our Google Sheet and our parabola flow. So what I'm going to do next, actually, I'm going to create a Glide app, or I actually did that already. So you want to go into Glide, sign up, log in, and click on create a new app, and you want to choose the exchange rate app as your Google Sheet. And I did already, so I'm going to go to Glide. Let me just reload the sheet. Let's just click yes, and parabola will, Glide will recognize a few data, but there's really no structure here. So let's actually go ahead and start modifying our app. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to add a tab here, okay, a new tab. We don't need a source for that, but you can do whatever you like. So I'm just going to call this about this app, okay, and this should just be an informational page. And let me change the icon to, I don't know, home maybe, or info. Okay, and we want this tab to be at the beginning of the app, or the first tab. Okay, let's just go into layout. Let's change that to details. Let's remove everything. Okay, and let's just add a rich text here, and let's have a custom text, and you can just enter something. Welcome to the exchange rate app. We fetch the newest exchange rates every 10 minutes, allowing you to convert euros into other currencies, something like that. Okay, you could add a picture as well. That would be done by adding a new sheet, but I'm just going to leave it as is right now. That's not the main focus. But what I'm going to do next, I'm going to actually go to tabs again. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to basically create a new tab for each, each exchange rate. So we're going to have in total 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more exchange rates or tabs basically. So let's create a few more tabs. I'm gonna call this US dollar. Okay, we're gonna call this one, what else do we have? Swiss franc, we have the British pound, the Canadian dollar, Australian dollar, so let's just add that. And the Canadian dollar, do we have all now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think there's one missing. Do we still 1, 2, 3? Oh no, there's only 5. We just need 5. Okay, great. I mean, this looks a bit full now, so I'm gonna leave it as it is. But what you could do, if you could say, okay, I don't want to have 6 tabs, that's just too much. You could drag these tabs into the menu here, and then automatically a menu will appear here, and you will have the option to select the tabs here. But I'm gonna leave it as tabs, okay? And let me just change the icon for all of this to a dollar, even though that only makes sense for the dollar currencies, but still, you get the gist. So let me just change the icon. And let me also change the theme of the whole app. I think for a currency app, we can use a dark theme that would look quite nice. Yeah, that looks nice. I like that. Okay. So let's go back and start basically modifying our conversion, and that's going to be quite simple. I'm going to change, first of all, I'm in Swiss francs right now. I'm going to change the view or the style to details, okay? And what you can do, we can just add a basic text at the top, and this text should say current exchange rate, okay? For the Swiss franc is this, okay? We then want a number entry, so a number entry. So this is just going to be a number entry, and what we're going to do actually now, we're going to create a new entry in our Google Sheet. So let's go back to Google Sheet, and let me just create a new column here, okay? And we're going to leave this column, and I'm going to call this column value, basically, okay? And this should be just the value in euros you want to change. So let's go back to Glide, let's just reload the sheet, and let's say yes, okay? And this number entry, so if we go back here and change the details, this number entry should be of source, basically value, okay? So this is, let's add a placeholder, the value in euros you want to exchange, you want to convert, okay? And what we're going to do next, we're also going to add a math value, okay? So we're going to go to data, and under data we're going to add a new column, and we're just going to call this column euro, and we were in Swiss francs, and this should be a math column. And we just want to do, okay, and now that's important. So we want to do whatever the value is, okay, the value times the rates dot chf. Let me just check. Yeah, we can just choose here the rates dot chf, and let's click done. Okay, and what this will do, this field will just calculate the value, taking whatever the user inputs as the value. We're going to multiply that value by the exchange rate, and we're going to get the result here. And we're going to do that the same for all exchange rates. So let me just add a column for euro US dollar. And again, this is going to be math, and we want to take the value and multiply it by the rate, which in this case is the US dollar. Let's click done. Let's also add another column for euro British pounds. Again, math. We want to multiply the value times the rate for the British pound. Here, let's click done. Let's add the euro. What do we have as well? We have Australian dollar. So math. Let's take the value again, multiply it by the Australian dollar. So it's here. And at last for the Canadian dollar, so again euros, Canadian dollar again, math, we want to take the value times the rate for the Canadian dollar. Let's click done. And now we have 5 columns for our 5 exchange rates, which will always dynamically calculate the value. So let's go back to layout. And I don't know what happened here. Let's maybe just change all of this. We don't need this about. We actually had the rich text that's gone somehow. I'm just going to enter something, welcome to this app. I don't know why it's gone now. So let's go back to Swiss francs. And for Swiss francs, we want to say, okay, we don't want to have the rich text. Okay, well, we're actually going to do a change to that in a second. Let's just ignore this. But let's go to Swiss francs now. And what we're going to do, we're going to add again, okay, let's add the current exchange rate, so basic text. We're going to call that current exchange rate. Okay, and this should be the rates for the Swiss franc. We then want to have a number entry, which should modify the value. And then we want to have another basic text, which should just display the calculated Swiss franc. So how will that look? So quite simple, we have our current exchange rate, the value, and let's enter, for example, let's say we have 2,000 euros and we want to convert them into Swiss francs. So I'm going to enter 2,000 euros and that's it. We have an automatic currency conversion. 2,000 euros are 2,174 and 6 Swiss francs at the current exchange rate, and really easy, quite simple. So just to summarize again, our value is a field on our Google Sheet, and this is a dynamically calculated field using our data tab in Glide, and it just dynamically calculates that. So we can do the same thing for all these fields. So for British pounds, again, let's change to details. Let's remove all of this here, we don't need that. Let's just add a basic text again, which is going to be the British current exchange rate, okay? And we're going to add a number entry, so it's the same as before, number entry for the value field, and we're going to add just the basic text again, which is just going to display the rate for the British pound. So here, euro, British pound. Okay, so as you can see, 2,000 euros are 1,700 British pounds, and 2,174 Swiss francs, okay? Again, same thing for the Australian dollar details. Let's remove all of this. Let's add the basic text again. Current exchange rate. And I'm going to say, okay, a number entry as well, which should be the value. And we want to have a text again, a basic text, which should display the exchange rate for the Australian dollar. Let's go to US dollar details. Again, basic text. For the US dollar, let's add a number entry for the value, basic text, which should be the US dollar exchange. And last but not least, details again. Let's remove this, and we're going to have the current exchange rate for the Canadian dollar. Okay, we're going to have a number entry for value and the basic text, which is going to be the conversion like this. And yeah, that's basically it. As you can see, your user can easily switch between those currencies, change the value. The value will be applied to all these tabs. So let's say, for example, we have 3,000 euros. So as you can see, 3,000 euros are 4,300 Canadian dollars, 3,300 US dollars, and so on and so forth. And that works amazingly. No issues with that. The last thing I just want to change, I want to change this about this app page. What we actually have to do for that is, if you go to tabs and look at about, the source is sheet 1, but we actually need to add another sheet for that, because that's going to make things easier. So I'm going to go back to our Google Sheet. Let me just quickly add a new sheet, and we're going to call it about. And you can say, okay, this should be, let's say, a title, a text, and an image. And this will be exchange rate app. Okay, exchange rate app. Welcome to the exchange rate app. Okay, and the image we're going to leave blank. And let's go back to Glide. Let's just reload the sheet. And what we're going to do now, under tabs, I'm just going to add a new tab again. And this is going to be the About tab. Again, let's use the info. And the source is going to be About. Let's drag that to the top. And let's actually go to layout now. Let's change the image to an image. And what you can do, you can just drag an image on top of here. So let me just choose an image. Just dragged an image on top of this field here. But currently it's in a list format, and we actually want to change it to a details view format. So let's just change that. And as you can see, we have our title here, which consists of the title, the text below, and the image. And that's basically it. We have our exchange rate ready. We have an about page here with a nice image, our Swiss francs conversion, British pounds conversion, Australian dollar conversion, US dollar, and Canadian dollar conversion. And yeah, that's basically it. We created our own up-to-date currency conversion app without any code using Parabola, the foreign exchange rate API, Glide, and the Google Sheet, all without writing any single line of code. And yeah, I hope you learned something in today's tutorial, and I'm going to see you guys for the next tutorial with Nocode HQ. Bye. After I finished making this tutorial, I noticed there's a small issue. So basically, every time Parabola will fetch new data from our API and send it to our Google Sheet, it will override the column value which we will need for our Glide application to work. And there's just a very quick fix for that. So what you want to do, we just want to add another step here in your Parabola flow. Just search for column. We want to add a new column, so let's just drag that here. And instead of going from column filter to Google Sheets export, I want to connect that here. We don't want that connection here. So let's actually add a column, and we have our rates as usual, but now we want to add a new column which we called value. And this, if you want, it could have a default value which is optional. Let's say it should have always a value of 100. I don't know, you could leave it blank as well, but let's just show updated results. And now Parabola will send the usual data that we have plus the value column at the end, which we'll need in our Glide application in order to make the conversions. And yeah, that's basically it. So you can just connect the columns flow here to the Google Sheet export, and that should work fine now. So yeah, I hope that's clear.